Hi, welcome to Dead Air Live. I'm Scott Bowden, and the show tonight is Foreign Volunteering in Nepal. And it's really a story about volunteering, and for me the story begins here with the Somerville Community Access Television. It's most of the people who are doing things here are volunteers and volunteer through the Somerville Producers Group, which is presenting this show. And I was, it's one of those things that's special about Somerville. I was hanging out with the local Tibetan Lama, and Chris introduced himself to us. Chris is here on my right, and he's a teacher in the history department at the St. James School in rural Maryland. And I was telling him how I wanted to try and do something about, something to do with Tibet. And he said that he didn't really know so much about Tibet, but had been doing work in Nepal, and that perhaps there would be an opportunity to make a film there. And the opportunity came. And so I'd like to introduce you to Chris, and he'll say a few words about his adventure here, and then we'll have a chance to show some of the adventures that we found ourselves in.
Namaskar, Scott.
Namaste.
Good to be here. Thank you. I was very excited when this opportunity came up and we met each other and were able to work out this plan to go and visit a few of my friends from my time there as a volunteer. And it's good for me to be here also with you as the new representative, North American representative for Insight Nepal, an organization we'll talk about later in the film. But a great part of volunteering and the project that we undertook was this sense of adventure, and that we have been on an adventure. So I don't know if you want to roll the clip
Sure.
and get into it.
Yes, that'd be great.
Good morning everyone on the flight deck. Time at the moment is 9:10. We've just done one circle over the village of Ockham, south of London Heathrow, and we're going to be commencing our approach, landing in just 10 minutes time. It's about 20 past
And so
9.
made our way into London, and here I'm seeing Chris for the first time in a long time, and we're finding our way to the tube.
Good 12-hour layover there. Gave us the opportunity to go into the city.
And I was really interested by the notation on the edge of the landings to mind the gap, and I found that was a slogan that was effective in many ways. Here we are making our way in Kathmandu, and for the sake of visitors like us, they have rickshaws, and we're touring through the which district?
Tamil district of Kathmandu, tourist district. Not particularly crowded this evening, but always enjoyable to go out on the rickshaw and smell the smells and hear the sounds, and get carted around.
There certainly are plenty of sounds.
Right.
So at this point, we've been traveling for days. We traveled all night to get to London, and then traveled all night to get to the Qatar in the Gulf, and arrived in Kathmandu late in the afternoon. And it's been true to having a sense of adventure. I'm immersed in very new and different place.
Right, and that's the great thing about travel, especially 3 consecutive 7-hour flights, is you have to open yourself up to new and exciting opportunities that present themselves, and new smells, sounds, traditions, risks, all that we experienced on our first night in the Tamil district. Really got a sense that this was like no place Kathmandu is like no place else.
Right. But then we found ourselves walking on the street at night and heard the sounds of some
Familiar.
driving American rock and roll, and found these Nepali people in the 11th Hour band who are having a great time doing the Doors and it was a good evening, but there was no end to the traveling. We had much further to go. It really took us a full half week to find ourselves at our first destination.
Right.
The people are traveling on the left side of the road. There's a British influence. It's very interesting. The three-wheeled vehicles, as far as I know, that they call them tuk-tuks, and they make a tuk-tuk sound when they're going. The traffic seems lunatic at first because it's coming from so many directions, but at a point you become normalized to it. It doesn't move as fast as American traffic does, and so people are able to drive much more closely.
Right. And people ride their bikes and their motorcycles and are walking in the streets, and it's definitely an interesting experience. Fortunately, we didn't have to drive ourselves.
No, that would have been a difficult part of the learning curve.
Right. I think it's good to point out that one of our final destinations was Pokhara, Nepal, which is a good 7-hour bus ride from Kathmandu. And when we first went there, we opted for the shorter flight, which is about an hour. And what we found was it may have been quicker to drive because of the dense fog in the morning. It gave us a 4-hour layover before we could actually leave.
So from Kathmandu, we skipped through the fog and made our way to Pokhara.
Pokhara, which is famous for its lake, Feo-Atal, and in the shadow of Machu Picchu and the Annapurna Range. Beautiful spot.
The mountains are really hard to miss in Nepal. The 7 of the 10 largest mountains in the world are there, and there are times when you might be facing the wrong way, or that you might be in a pitch on a valley somewhere, but if you have any kind of a view soaring over 20,000 feet, those are the mountains. If it's only 10,000 feet, they tend to call them hills. But those hills were a challenge enough for me. You have half the oxygen at the 10,000 foot level, so it can take you a day to acclimate for every 3,000 meters of increase in your altitude is considered a reasonable rate for acclimating to the altitude. But here we're in Pokhara, and it's at about a 3,000 foot level, so that you wouldn't notice any real difficulty. And immediately it's a different place. You get palm trees and stacks of hay. Very
pleasant temperatures in the day.
Have these gateways of stone drilled out to keep the water buffalo from wandering into traffic.
Right.
And we're walking from the place where we're staying with the director of the Children in Nepal program to the building that Children in Nepal resides in. And along the way we found a Gurung funeral party, which lasted for days. And it
weeks,
was
I think is safe to say.
Right, and it was, we thought this was a big party when we were coming by, and we weren't aware yet that it was a funeral. And later on that day and days, there were more and more tents appeared, and it was really quite a celebration they were having of someone's life.
Right, and quite a exceptional walk for me, because I hadn't done this for several years, but this was the way to get to Children in Nepal, which is where I first volunteered in 2000. Children in Nepal is a nonprofit, non-governmental organization, and it's working to promote the rights and welfare of children, specifically ones living on the margins of society. I first came in contact with them through the placement agency Insight Nepal, and fortunately, Children in Nepal does work with short-term temporary volunteers. And I was given a position on their staff for 2 months, and really got to know their particular programs and the individuals that were running that organization. So it was quite a coming home for me to get back there, and after traveling for so long.
There was a family of people there, both the immediate family of Ram and all the people working, and that sense of homecoming was a nice thing to visit. It gives you a great sense of welcoming.
Right.
And so it was nice, and even welcome is built into the floor as you walk up the steps, the first level.
Right.
And
children are singing.
As is the custom, you take your shoes off, and then you find yourself seeing the welcome. And so a view from the balcony, and here's the welcome. So I guess we'll cut back to the studio now, because the next segment that we'll be introducing is an interview with Bim Lal Gurung, who is the Undersecretary for the Ministry of Education and Sports in the Planning and Budgeting section. And he's had a role in founding the Children in Nepal organization, and he's going to be describing the relationship of the government to Children in Nepal, which is a non-governmental organization, and that there's a partnership and that they have a larger plan to eradicate illiteracy. I guess the big plan is by 2050, but they're looking for ways to make direct progress and with Children in Nepal. And the partnership between the government and Children in Nepal, they're reaching a core concentration of people through the government programs, and then Children in Nepal is finding ways to bring literacy to children in difficult circumstances. So here's Bim Lal Gurung.
From the very beginning, I have been involved in the Children Nepal, which is a non-profitable, non-governmental organization. The organization in which I have been involved, that is in Pokhara. You know that you have been already visited that. Because these days, there are many non-governmental organizations and international organizations which are really concentrated in the capital city of Nepal, which is Kathmandu. Very few of them like to work outside Kathmandu, but this Children Nepal is the base is at Pokhara, and Mr. Ramchandra is also from a village, as I am. We both of us are from the same village, so basically we are very much interested to support children of the remote areas and of the village, not in a town like Kathmandu. So we have made the base of Children Nepal at Pokhara.
Yeah, maybe you may also remember, we were drafting the constitution 7 years ago, and then sitting together, and
it's quite long. It's difficult even to remember what we did in the early stage.
You are also one of the founders.
I should say that I was one of the founders, but it is very. In the early stage also, I should be very frank that I could not do much for the development of this Children Nepal. However, I have I am trying my best, and how can I better support this Children Nepal at the present situation. So sometimes I talk, especially with the donor agencies, regarding how they can help, how they can support to our organizations, and from some donor agency we have got very much positive response also, but that has not been materialized yet. So we're trying our best to have some good partners, sister organization from different countries like United States, Japan, and some other country also. Mr. Ramchandra is looking for that. He has visited some other country also with the same purpose. So I think these children in Nepal has a very good prospect.
So, would you like to tell about what is the education the systems, especially for the children from the perspective of the government?
Yeah. Actually, you know, country like Nepal, you know that Nepal is a developing country. In a developing country like ours, it is not always possible to address all the growing demand of education only by the government. So the government now is at a position to have some partnership from the community, partnership from the non-governmental organization, and partnership from the private sector. Because not only in Nepal, in all countries, developing countries, it's quite impossible to address all the problems only from the part of the government. So these days, just the government, you know, is looking after the cooperation, after the partnership of the different sector, international organization and national non-governmental organization also now trying to help, trying to support, trying to cooperate their best to the attempt of the governments as to the development of the education sector. Basically, at the moment, you know, the primary school age children, now 20% out of the total primary school age children are out of school. That means only 80% are enrolled in the school. So it has been a great problem and challenge to us, because you know that we are trying to eradicate illiteracy. We are trying to give education for all by 2015. But at the moment we have still 20% out of the school children. So we are trying our best. How can we cater them? How can we bring them in the education system? Because the social assessment, the study of the social assessment says that those 20% children are basically from the poor family. They belong to the ethnicity group. They belong to the disadvantaged group. So it is very difficult how to bring them to the school system. So we need more and more support.
See what so we're coming in. Hi.
Okay.
So the next segment we're about to see.
Yeah, we're going to go into one of the connections that Children in Nepal has established within a local school community, and they've been sponsoring many children there. I think over 40 go to this one particular school. Children in Nepal has provided financial support for their families and to pay for school necessities, enabling these kids to go learn to read, learn to do mathematics, associate with other children. And it's been a real success for CN, and this particular school has done really amazing things. They've put on a new school building. They have recently donated land to Children of Nepal for the establishment of a new building for the organization. So there's quite a unique and strong relationship that the local community and Children of Nepal have established through a variety of institutions here at this local elementary school.
Yeah, I was impressed the way that you could be in a city such as Pokhara, and before we see the children here, there were eagles wheeling overhead. A flock of eagles.
Right.
Not a flock of seagulls, eagles.
Right.
Big, beautiful birds, and then you turn back down and there's children.
Right.
And they're
a lot of them
very excited
right.
to see us and
sure.
to see what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it always makes it exciting.
Yeah, a majority of these underprivileged children are able to go to school and to have these experiences with their friends through private sponsorship. And Children of Nepal has done an amazing job of finding individual donors in the United States and Europe who are willing to, pay the small amount that it takes to get these kids into school. Mm-hmm. And it's been a real success. There are many more out there, but this is a program that's really taken off for Children of Nepal, and these kids are really excited.
Right. Already getting into the peace movement a little bit, but part of what's happening in this scene is that we've hit on a phrase that we've been hearing in Nepali, Kegarni.
Kegarni.
What to do. Right. And it's an ongoing question, and then there was a lot of doing that we were involved in. And so we were going to see if we could get all the kids to say Kegarni at once, but they were...
it was too much.
They were wild.
It was too much for them to handle.
It was very exciting. So we'll be back into the studio here, and we're going to be getting ready to travel again because we aren't really done yet. We've been in Pokhara, and we're going to find our way out to the village.
Right, we've got to go further.
Yes,
further into the
and we aren't really done. But while we were in Pokhara, we had a chance to make some documentation of the facilities of Children in Nepal and the physical manifestations of the programs.
Right.
And there was, in the first floor, there was a program for the children, and then there was a level at which crafts were made.
Right.
And then there's the manner of the way the sponsorships work.
Right. So, just to speak briefly about the Surimukhi program, which is the income generating program of Children in Nepal, it's really been an innovation and empowering for all the members. It started by some 2 women who came over and had been doing work in Bangladesh, and so they make these puppets, T-shirts here that I have on. Just a real success.
So I think we might have seen a piece of a map here. Now this is a trek that we had made after the village, where we gained 7,000 feet of altitude in a pretty short amount of time, and found our way to Gorapani. And we'll have some footage coming up in a while that you'll know you're seeing Gorapani when you see a helicopter.
Right.
And these dolls are one of the products that the Suryamukh program is making, so that the organization isn't aid dependent, but that they make these dolls, and they're well received. Hand puppets are very interesting, and there's the T-shirt you're wearing, and then the Children in Nepal organization also is looking at ways to communicate in many media. And so I really didn't learn enough Nepali to really read the shirt, but
there's too many letters.
Find the Sanskrit really quite beautiful. So the other way that they're communicating with some of the children is by making almost in a graphic novel form a story about social consequences, and that it's a way to introduce some of the ideas. There's difficult issues and situations, right. and it's not easy to speak about all these things. And so between the books and their direct education programs, they have an effective program. So we're getting ready to travel into the village now, and so I helped find my way by finding a book called Trekking in Nepal, and I saw that was there. It seems to be a good representation. So here, the scene in the background is just before we're leaving Pokhara. This is the big lake.
Fewatal.
Fewatal. And it's really beautiful to paddle around. There's people washing things in the background, and this is fishtail.
This is the famous Fishtail Mountain. It's in the Annapurna Range and along that trekking route that we just saw.
There's flocks of cranes. We're on the roof of the director of the Children of Nepal's house, and
right.
At this point we're taking our chances. We're riding in a taxi, and it's pretty exciting. There's more people stuffed into a Corolla than I've had a chance to attempt since the 1970s, and it was a 1970-something Corolla, and
yeah, early morning, beautiful views of the mountain range there, and this is on our way to the village of Bitalab, and part of our adventure was to go further out into the rural communities and visit an old school where I had volunteered in 2000, the Sri Porneshwar Higher Secondary School. And we were trying to figure out this inspiration for volunteering and where does that come from, and to go so far. And now it's been 2.5 days of traveling, 3 flights, 2 bus rides, another flight, then now finally a taxi. To learn and to teach in this strange community and environment.
Right now, we just had a chance to hear the wheels squealing a bit through the hairpin turns. We stopped for snacks. They have some just donut-like things.
The roti, right? The fried bread.
They make right away. There's always some tea brewing.
Yeah, and here we're gonna get some curried eggs, some spiced up hard-boiled eggs, which are delicacy, delicious source of protein in the morning.
So the road, of course, is very dramatic. You have huge views opening before you, drop-offs to one side.
Right. Buses barreling down the other.
Gateways that I never knew what the significance was, but we were traveling along a river valley. It's the mountains are so hard to miss. The water has to make its way first, and then people try to follow.
Right.
If a vehicle is going to be concerned. And the shoulders are really culverts, so it's nice that the Nepali drivers are on the whole very skillful, and mostly
cautious. We had some cautious drivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those buses
a lot of beeping.
Much bigger. This is a buffalo that has his own mind about where he's about to go.
Yeah.
He didn't want us to pass on the right.
The brake doesn't work here, and the cow gets away from him. We saw a lot of natural roadblocks, flocks of birds, herds of sheep.
Yes. So
water buffalo.
Famous words here?
Famous. Very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
So this starts the last leg, actually, getting to Bitalab village. This is the final walk, 2-hour walk maybe, hour and a half. Not far. Steep.
Very steep. As you'll see, at this point, I'm trying to operate a Steadicam rig and carry a heavy pack, keep up with people who are gleefully skipping their way home, and I've never seen terrain like this before in my life, and I have I don't know, I try and adjust to heights, but on the whole, it was just watching the earth drop away and finding myself looking down at trees. It was a real eye-opener. So there's some shaky moments, but then you find yourself normalizing to it. You simply pay attention. It's a well-trod path. People have been walking for hundreds of years.
Right.
And you really know you're somewhere new. There you are, looking down at a tree, river below.
Yeah, this kind of volunteering and cultural exchange can be adventurous and challenging. You definitely learn to go with things, I guess, right? Adjust and then keep moving forward.
So now we've stepped away from roads and from electricity. This is the last bit of heavy technology. The British, with the Gurkhas, who were the Guru?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Magar.
They have had a bridge building campaign, and so there are some well-located bridges which are, that water is rushing. It's
right, they're essential.
Not easy to cross, so it's.
And I think they had a problem with a lot of their previous bridges washing out every June and July during the monsoon, so it's good to get them up high. So these are the final steps up to Shri Porneshwar Higher Secondary School in the village.
We're making our way up through the rice terraced landscape for largely rice cultivation in this segment that we are walking through. And you walk on a lot of mud walls. So there's tilled soil to our left, and then it drops to the right. And sometimes it's dropping a foot, other times you're pretty well over your head. I wasn't always, I didn't understand why I was walking on walls at first until I saw the buffalo, the water buffalo.
Right.
And then you see why it's good to have some separation of the different transportation.
Sure, you bet.
The four-leggers so the horns can walk below, and you'll pay attention to your footsteps as you walk on the walls above.
And most people are traveling with dress shoes or flip-flops on as their traction.
So here we are. I'm seeing the school for the first time. Is this where you taught for, was it 5 months? Or?
Right, this is where in 2000 I had come here to assist with teaching English and some of their science curriculum, some of their social studies. I lived in this village. I spent 4 months here as a teacher with them. Their school has a faculty and staff of about 18, serves grades 1 through 12. Beautiful views, but a very modest campus, as you can see. There's some classrooms there and a volleyball net, teacher's office, but very dedicated people, very committed to teaching and to working with others. Here I have meeting my friend Chola Kantaregmi, who I haven't seen for 2 years, and
he's your dancing teacher?
Yeah, he's my dancing teacher. He wants to sing the same songs that we sang. So I'm kind of overwhelmed trying to get my Nepali verses together for a little song and dance.
All right, well, they're going to be expecting you to sing and dance.
Right.
It's
par for the course there.
The children erupt.
So yeah, it was unavoidable once we got to the school that our presence was going to cause some chaos. So immediately upon our arrival, kids were skipping class and teachers were coming up, and we hadn't seen each other for some time. So it was quite a, here I'm trying to brainstorm for some names.
Testing your recall.
Very, very much testing it, but all good-natured fun. So we did kind of disrupt this school day, and the kids were very curious about Scott in particular. Your height was an issue there.
Yes.
You were towering.
They would have to come up and measure and laugh.
Took a lot of pictures of you. People were very curious. Wanted that for their home, for their memories.
I think they probably were wishing that I would play some volleyball with them.
Sure.
Hey, you could be a blocker.
But this is a particularly nice return for me because since I have been volunteering at the school, I've turned my volunteer work into a vocation, and I'm currently teaching at St. James School. And since that time, since I've been at St. James, we've been raising money and awareness, writing letters, fundraising Children Nepal for the children.
Look at all those kids skipping school.
Been sponsored by CN. And our school has a real commitment to inspiring young people to serve their communities locally and globally. So it was nice to be back. We have 2 students here that we've sponsored for 2 years.
Here in the village of Bidalab.
Here in Bidalab at the school. And I had some experience teaching with them. Here's the presentation of the ceremonial letters from the headmaster and gifts. Very much like the formal presentation of these things. This is the headmaster at Sri Porneshwar Higher Secondary School. But to get back to the sponsorship, the students that I work with in Maryland have been really committing time and energy in really simple ways, as simple as they can, oftentimes writing a letter or baking cookies for a bake sale. And this has allowed us to successfully raise $2,000 and for that money to go to CN and to go to this school and to have that kind of impact is really, really special.
So the letter writing was an innovation to find a way to use a classroom exercise to make a global community.
Right.
And so
Here
are the students that are
right.
being directly sponsored?
Yeah, this is Tech, who we've been sponsoring for 2 years.
And then
And then Bindu there also sitting down. She's a little bit shy at this point with the cameras and all the attention. The kids did a great job with it all, you know. They really were spirited. These
the
guys
teachers
they had a great time.
they're fascinated with the camera. We had to show them that look at the tricks the camera can do. It's like, see.
So yeah, they just the sense of humor is one of the teachers' best tools, and so they obviously have a fine-tuned sense.
Of course, the children were also fascinated with the cameras, and they didn't really have a whole lot of fear of them, as sometimes people here would treat you like paparazzi.
Right.
You know, they're as interested in you as you might be in the work you're doing.
Right. So here we see leaving the school with some faculty, going to, we're actually looking for some power source. We had wanted to, there's no electricity in the village. The electricity hasn't been connected.
And
so
here's a source of water.
Source of water.
Doing some
Public
wash.
water. Washing, getting the water for dinner, for tea. Going along the path in this very connected village. The neighborhoods are very, the communities are very tight. People are very aware of their neighbors and what's going on. And you're walking through the house.
Nice that the homestay arrangement that comes with the volunteering allows you to enjoy that, to walk from one place to the next. You're walking through people's front yards.
Right
next to their porches. They're right there, and
that was one of the things that originally attracted me to the program by Insight Nepal, was the fact that they did have the homestay, and that you would be placed in a family situation. And here, I probably went to dinner at everyone in the village's house at least once.
This is a spot where they do some cooking outside, but this is a stupa. Is that what this is called?
This is just the local Hindu temple. Each neighborhood kind of has its own. Great views, obviously, from it. The kids were obviously entertained by the commotion we were causing. But a sacred place to them. And I think it meant a lot for them that we went there. And we took time out of our day to see some place that was so meaningful to them. So,
undeniable beauty of the spot. And the sculpture is fascinating.
Yeah.
Here's the tikka. Is that the tikka that's on the
tikka?
The
yeah, they're putting this ritualistic powder and water on as a sign of blessing and respect. We went through the Monster Tikka event several times.
Yes.
The whole forehead becomes covered with the tikka.
Yeah, and it's not always the powdered, but it seemed that some of the earliest dyes, what they use with us, I guess would be a food grade dye, because it seemed like a food. It was almost as if it was pomegranate.
Right.
And with that, we were blessed for our continued journeys. So we're in a segment here where the people who were taking us to see this temple realized that from a distance that I could zoom in and that they could read the Sanskrit. So as it is now, I'm 20 feet away from this tablet and they are reading the Sanskrit from the screen. And it's so I'm trying to look across and see if I can guess by their tempo when I'm at the end of one line and when to start on the next. And so they're having to be a little patient with me as I try and let them use my camera as a reader.
Right. Well, while I was there, I think an important part of the volunteering program is taking some sort of initiative in cultural and language courses and seeking that out. The few bits of conversational Nepali that I picked up during my time there and the basic hellos and my name is were essential and really opened up a lot of doors and opportunities. They really embraced me more because I had those few bits that I could speak with them.
So we're up at a knoll on the hill. There's another temple here. That area below is where during monsoons the water buffalo would bathe, and there's a game they play to pass the time while they're waiting for the water buffalo to water themselves. That was carved in the stone called Cows and Tigers. And there are tigers who come into the village, and so the game is one of survival. Enough cows can box in the tiger, and a tiger can take away a cow. So it's a chess game.
Nepali chess.
So at this point, we've come to a cultural event.
Cultural event. It's a celebration. It's, I think, a way for them to express their gratitude that we were there. A way for them to, for the kids to demonstrate the singing and dancing that they had been working on and the performances that were so important to their traditions and to their education system. And, you know, ingenious that they turned this event into a way to draw more students into the school and to bring those kids to watch the dancing, to watch the singing, to watch the other students perform. And
the village can't really afford all the people 100% enrollment.
Right.
So there's a certain number of children whose parents have found the means to get them the uniforms and books they need to go, but then there are more.
Right.
And so some are receiving sponsorship, and some are drawn in by the things that are being learned.
Right.
At this point, you're going to be called forth to dance.
Right. Well, I think, and to give a speech, to say some words about why we're there, what kind of relationship we're trying to form, and the importance that you know, their work, how important it is to me that they're continuing to educate and expand their education system in the village. This school is actually not old. It's probably 4 or 5 months old. They've just put it on because of the increased demand. And yeah, obviously I really enjoy embracing a lot of their culture, and part of that is the rich dancing and singing. And so inevitably at the end of these ceremonies I can't help but get out there and shake it a little bit.
There's storytelling that's happening in the dancing, that as the singers
Right.
are telling the story. Part of the dancing is acting out.
Sure. Right. To these movements and these lines, there's a real story. And you know, earlier in this scene, we had seen beautiful girls performing their dances and boys singing, and it's really a special part of their gatherings. I think at almost any time we went somewhere for an occasion to get together, this is inevitably followed by singing and dancing.
Babaram is...
Babaram is the English teacher and good friend. Great man, very inspirational to the students. He teaches the upper level English in the secondary school. He grows his own coffee. We went over there for coffee. He's a regular Renaissance man.
And we had Tika.
Oh,
Had a chance to see the Hindu observance where that they pay respects to in an altar. And I don't really know what the whole story is there, but then we would have the pigment applied,
right,
and we would be blessed for the day, and off and on our way.
Okay, here we see I dragged Chola Kanta Regmi out. He's an exceptionally gifted musician and dancer, as well as social studies teacher at the school. And it had always been our tradition to mirror each other, and for him to try to teach me new songs and to teach me a new dance. And just exceptionally patient with me and my moves, because I didn't have the time to really learn everything down to a wire. But
some of your interpretations.
Right, very Western interpretation of a lot of Eastern dance and song. But we had a great time, and there's a real bond there that I have with those people. Just being there for a short time, 5 months, living and working with them, to safely say that, we are brothers and sisters, and that I have a home there, and that I feel very welcome there anytime. I think you can say the same. You felt welcome. You were immediately received as the big, tall one from the West.
They made sure I knew I was tall, but people let me know that anyway. It was really rather delightful because adults, children, they would laugh when they would see how tall I was and put their hands over their heads, walk up and measure themselves against me, and know that I'm very tall. It was always a lot of fun, and people were always saying hello everywhere you go, and how are you?
Right.
What's your name?
Right.
It was a very open feeling.
Yeah, it's a very welcoming place. I think their traditional greeting, Namaste, is really the core of everyone there, that they honor the God inside you, and that your curiosity to them, you're a friend, they want to learn from you, they want to share from you. And in volunteering, I think the best advice that I received was to go into this situation with the same in mind, that I want to learn from them, and that I want to receive them, and to...
This is where the tigers come. He's talking about the tigers now. And I guess we'll be coming back into the studio. So we're just about to go on another adventure, because we've been in the village and we had a chance to interview the sponsored students, and we're going to have to find our way back to Pokhara to do more work at Children in Nepal. But we have some time at this point for some freedom and some adventure, where we really do take the trek and have a chance to walk off into the mountains. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it is one of the most beautiful trekking routes in the world. The Annapurna circuit is exceptionally rugged. There's some real steep parts, there's some really challenging sections, but so rewarding. The views are gorgeous. The jungle is gorgeous.
There's some bureaucracy you might not really be familiar with here. We have to pay a fee in order to be able to enter the range and stay for a said period of time. I think it was $20, and we could have stayed for weeks, although we only had 4 days. And the The Asian Development Bank has found that that tourism is a way to alleviate poverty, and that they were making an example of the way that the funds are used in Nepal by but for trekking permits. The way that it funds it's part of community-based tourism, which opens a door into ecotourism, and it's a great adventure. And we can roll in some of the footage as we go off into an adventure. We'll see some some goats at first, but then we'll make our way up higher into the mountains. So but there was a notion new to me that I noticed from an announcement from the Asian Development Bank about poor tourism, that ecotourism is good. It puts the environment at the center, and that you have that here. The community-based tourism aspect is satisfied because you have lodges all along the way that are locally owned and operated. And then there can be occasions when, if you are taking a tour with a group which is from the outside, that it may be eco-based, but the money is really going elsewhere. So it's nice that tourism. I mean, tourists are a beautiful thing in Nepal now, because you have a chance to put yourself in such a beautiful environment and get great reactions. So we went from the village goat to, this is a mountain goat. The horns are really quite different. The much heavier coat were 5,000 feet higher, and the children like to play with the goat.
Not a lot of fear from the goat. From
No.
the horns.
They're old friends.
Right.
So there's more than one way to get to the mountaintops.
There's two ways. You can fly up there in a helicopter for $5,000. And takes about 45 minutes, or you can go by foot, which I think took us 2 days to get to this point.
Yes.
Two full days of steep climbing with heavy packs, and very tired. And we arrived just in time to see someone to fly in with the helicopter.
It was a little bit of a surprise. I had a surprise like this once before. It was when I hiked up to Mount Washington in New Hampshire for the first time. And when I finally summited, I found cars on the top because there's a road. And well, there's no road here, but here's this helicopter. And I've never stood so close to a helicopter when it's taking off, but the wind will blow you over backwards.
Yeah, well, Scott, I just wanted to say it was quite an adventure, and that there was a real, some real spirit of living on the edge and traveling great distances and exploring things. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to let me speak and to share some of what we experienced, and to promote and encourage people to volunteer and to become active in their communities locally, globally, that there's a lot of reward.
So we have a CG up now. We were trying to find out what we were getting into, because there's plenty of uncertainty in the world now. So we got our travel advisories and some security information from the U.S. government's travelstate.gov website. I also found comebackalive.com website interesting about security matters. And to get daily news about faraway places, the Department of State's Overseas Advisory Council has their website, ds-osac.org. And this is a good way to find out what's going on out there, because it's good to be informed. It's a changeable climate. There have been some political conflict, but it's you can certainly find your way around. We saw many other tourists, and the beauty is it's obvious why people go, and you get to give while you're there if you have a chance to bring volunteering into your adventure, and you have a wonderful chance to take back.
Well,
great experiences.
Yeah, I'd just like to give my love to my mother and father and my sisters Megan and Amanda, and Anthony Donovan and Patrick Gahan, two individuals that have been particularly encouraging on this adventure, and hi to Ramchandra. And thanks to all the volunteers here. I think this is a great effort, part of the community to really promote things and encourage people to participate. Thanks to Somerville Producers Group, Insight Nepal, Children Nepal, the St. James School.
And I'd also have to thank Somerville Community Access TV for giving me a place to get my volunteerism underway. And good evening. It's